The Philippines, a Catholic country in which until recently reproductive health services have been difficult to acquire and the rights and needs of women have been neglected. With no ready access to family planning, the health of many women has been endangered. Many have suffered and many have died from lack of care in childbirth, ill-timed or too frequent pregnancies, or by having to resort to illegal and unsafe abortions. But at last, there is real hope of change for the better, in the Philippines and elsewhere. For the first time, an international program of action has been devised around the needs of women, a plan with far-reaching implications for their health and well-being. In Cairo, Egypt, the need to give women opportunities and choices over their lives was placed firmly on the global agenda at the 1994 International Conference on Population and Development. The background to the conference was a growing imbalance between human numbers and the resources of the planet. At current rates, the global population could double from around 6 billion to over 12 billion in just 50 years. But if the new people-centered Cairo Plan of Action is implemented, growth could be leveling out by 2050 at a much more sustainable 8 to 10 billion. One country in the front line of this growing people and resources crisis, but with somewhat of a mixed record in promoting opportunities for women, is Egypt itself. Women's groups in various parts of the world have complained about the numbers argument being used to coerce women to control their fertility. Nevertheless, it was the numbers argument that first prompted the Egyptian government to intervene on the population front in 1967. There was a realization that falling death rates were not being matched by equivalent falls in the birth rate, and food resources were coming under pressure from the rising numbers. In addition, Egypt's capital, Cairo, was becoming very overcrowded, and services like water, transport and schools seriously overstretched. Egypt's carrying capacity, its exploitable land and water resources, is limited by the primarily desert conditions. Only 4% of the land is habitable or suitable for farming, mainly along the Nile and its delta. Though food production has been rising, half of Egypt's grain supply is imported, and improved irrigation and farming techniques can only improve yields so far, especially now that the Aswan Dam has cut off the natural, revitalizing flood of the Nile with all its rich, fertile silt.
We were supposed to increase the agricultural area by the Aswan Dam construction, and we did not. We actually have lost more area because of the growth of population, and so people are building on agricultural land, and it's all been taken up by excess population for housing and all that. The resources would include the production, how much food do you produce, not just the fact of the size of the land that's being used, but the production of food. So we had to import a lot of food.
Partly driven by fear of this threat to the food supply, the Egyptian government embarked in 1967 on an ambitious family planning program. A nationwide network of 3,000 clinics was set up in the cities and small towns. The priority was not at that time the health of Egyptian women, but to spread the availability of family planning and to convince the traditional people to have fewer children.
We started by having some slogans, some, short spots in the TV to raise the awareness of the people, to let them look around themselves. That was a slogan at this time, that look around yourself and see how many people is around you, how it affects your life, this kind of thing. And the awareness and the knowledge of the people creates the demand for family planning. So the major success also started by these big communication campaigns.
فين امكم يا ولاد؟ هناك خرجت بره. قولوا فين؟
Where it was available, television was the main medium. Animations, dramas, talk shows, documentaries, all promoting the benefits to the family unit of having less children by using family planning. Radio is equally important, with discussions and quiz shows about family planning broadcast weekly from all over the country.
هل 8 مليارات أم أكثر من 5 مليارات أم 3 مليارات؟ 8 مليارات. 5 أكثر من 5 مليارات هعتبرها لها إجابة صحيحة. لأن هي كده هتفوز.
When governments approach the question of family planning, they are really concerned with numbers. Governments have to be concerned with numbers because the numbers make a difference in terms of what it costs them to get the country running. It costs them a lot more. It's dislocating the whole economy. And for them, not to be concerned about numbers would be impossible. It's part of their whole responsibility to see that there's a balance between numbers and resources. However, the non-governmental sector all over the world has been concerned with women's health.
The Cairo Plan of Action has endorsed this move away from numbers to reproductive health. For many women, pregnancy is an annual event from the very first year of marriage, putting enormous strain on their bodies and daily lives.
كنت أتمنى إنهم يبقوا أقل من كده عشان يعني حتى يريحوني في المعيشة وفي الخدمة وفي كده. إنما ده إرادة ربنا بقى النفر يعمل إيه. أنا حددت على الست خلاص والله كنت يعني الحمد لله أنا وأبوهم الله يرحمه إن ما كناش نعرف خالص إن السابع ده هيجي.
أنا يعني اتجوزت وقعدت شهرين. حملت في مين؟ في محمد. وإيه؟ وولدت محمد قعدت 10 شهور. في الشهر 11 كنت حامل في مين؟ من غير وسيلة ولا حاجة يعني من غير ما استخدم حاجة. كنت حامل في أحمد. أنجبت أحمد وقعدت 11 شهر وإيه؟ والحمل المرة دي بس أنا كده مش عايزة عيال ليه؟ لأن دول حلوين هم 3 الواحد يربيهم يبقوا متعلمين وكويسين أحسن من 5 6 الواحد بيبقى مهمل فيهم يعني وكمان عشان الصحة ما تتعبش يعني أنا دلوقتي وصحتي تعبانة يعني مش عايزة تاني وأصلا اتجوزت صغيرة يعني متجوزة على 17 سنة عندي دلوقتي 21 سنة وجبت 2 والتالت جاي في السكة يعني أنا مواليد 73 يعني لسه 21 سنة.
حكايتك ايه يا عواد؟ سايب بيتك وقاعد تسامر ويا اصحابك.
قول للست الدكتورة ما تخبيش حاجة.
حاضر يا حضرة العمدة. ما قولش ليه.
Today, the family planning media campaign continues. Over 60 hours of television a year, including a highly popular soap opera. But the message is changing. Now there's a new emphasis on reproductive health and the dangers to women of repeated pregnancies, of being too old or too young for pregnancy, or of not spacing their births. Maternal mortality in Egypt, as in most of the developing world, is still appallingly high.
The maternal mortality rate, I think, and most of our professional colleagues think, that it is the only way to put down the maternal mortality is to do family planning program, to provide safe contraceptives, to safeguard the health of the mother, for her family health also, because she is the health provider in her family. She is the major health provider in her family. She is the food provider. She is if she is well educated in the area of health, she will be providing a very good, environment for her family. So it's very important to take care of the mother, because without the mother, the family is broke down.
Having first of all been driven by the numbers argument, the Egyptian government is now embracing the new recommendations of the Cairo Conference, and particularly the emphasis on women's health. Half of all couples in Egypt now use a modern form of contraceptive, and the average family size has fallen to around 4 children. But now, the Egyptian government also wants to be judged by the quality of healthcare it provides for women throughout their lives, especially their motherhood years. This is a welcome development in this Muslim country where traditional values remain strong. But despite the recent emergence of fundamentalism, many Islamic leaders here are progressive and realistic and teach that the Quran does not object to the limiting of family size.
تعاليم الإسلام لا تعارض تنظيم الأسرة، وإنما تعاليم الإسلام تدعو إلى تنظيم الأسرة ما دامت هناك ضرورة تدعو إلى ذلك. هذه الضرورة يقدرها الزوجان فيما بينهما، فقد تكون ضرورة صحية، قد تكون ضرورة اجتماعية، قد تكون ضرورة نفسية، قد تكون ضرورة اقتصادية. هما يقدران هذه الضرورة، ومتى كان تنظيم الأسرة باتفاق الزوجين فالشريعة الإسلام لا تمنع من ذلك.
That religious tolerance of family planning, combined with the government's determination and imaginative use of the mass media, has transformed the lives of women in Egypt's cities and increasingly in rural areas too.
مهم عشان الواحد يعني يوفر في السكن وفي المصاريف وفي العيشة وفي الصحة، وعشان يعني الكل يبقى مرتاح. أهمية تنظيم الأسرة لراحة الكل يعني في السكن وفي الأزمة اللي هي حاصلة ديت، وفي العيشة وفي المصاريف وفي كله وفي التعليم وفي أي حاجة مهم تنظيم الأسرة. تنظيم الأسرة كويس يعني مش.
وأنت يا فاتن؟
وأنا تنظيم الأسرة مش عشان يعني واحد أو اتنين أو كده، ده عشان الكل. وهو أصلا يعني كله يعني كله بيستفيد. المدارس كل ما العدد يبقى قليل كل ما يبقى التعليم كويس ويبقى طالعين كويسين وعارفين، لكن ما يبقى 50 واحد في الفصل 60 واحد ما حتى بيعرفوش بيفهموش. وتنظيم الأسرة يعني بيوفر للكل، للست وللراجل ولكله كله
وللعيال.
There is still a large unmet need for family planning and quality reproductive health services in Egypt, especially in rural areas, and further progress will depend on greater efforts to involve and empower women. But no one can deny the very real progress that is being made and the long-term commitment of the government to the Cairo Programme of Action. The plan of action endorsed at the Cairo Conference doesn't set demographic targets. Instead, it sets goals for education, maternal and infant mortality, and for spending on reproductive health, including family planning. Within 5 years, it wants this spending to rise above $17 billion a year, 1/3 from international donors, 2/3 from the developing country governments. And it calls for a new emphasis away from numbers towards a focus on women's health.
The family planning programs were in fact designed originally to deal with the health needs of women and the rights of women. They somehow got moved from their original perspective to become, part of population policies to control and, to have a demographic objective. The reason why the importance of women's empowerment has become center stage again is that unless you involve women in their own planning, in their own decision making about programs for themselves, you're not likely to be successful. And secondly, that we really need to address their individual particular needs.
Women are not just objects in this game, that women are equal partners with men in the total reproductive health field. They have feelings, they have needs. And these needs need to be addressed, not simply because a country feels that women who produce the children biologically should be coerced or should be forced or should be seduced into not having too many children. That the feeling is that if we take care of their total needs, we then have more right to negotiate with them about their fertility aspirations.
Designed over 3 years with the cooperation of a coalition of women's groups, the Cairo Programme of Action will, it is hoped, put women in the mainstream of development and have their economic contribution appreciated, protect women's health and that of their babies, protect women from the results of unsafe abortion, protect the health of adolescents and encourage responsible behavior, combat the spread of HIV and AIDS, promote education for all, especially girls, and protect and promote the integrity of the family. Few countries already have programs that meet all these goals, but one that has gone a long way in that direction, despite the indifference of successive governments and resistance from the leaders of the Catholic Church, is Colombia. A roving loudspeaker in one of Colombia's newest urban slums, or barrios, one of many springing up to cater for waves of new migrants fleeing the poverty and guerrilla warfare of the countryside. The speaker van is announcing the arrival of Colombia's frontline family planning and reproductive health service, Pro Familia, one of the most astonishing development success stories anywhere in the world. They've taken over the shell of a house for the day. There's no electricity or water anywhere in the barrio, and yet, even in this basic living environment, there's reproductive health services for women. As well as its mobile teams and network of 1,500 rural dispensaries, Pro Familia has 48 urban clinics, the largest of which in the capital, Bogotá, deals with 900 women a day. It's not a government service, it's a private, not-for-profit organization affiliated to the International Planned Parenthood Federation. 30 years ago, the average number of children in a Colombian family was 7. Today, it's just 4, and still going down.
In looking at the experience in Colombia, today I think that if the family planning programs had not arrived in '65 when they came and hadn't arrived with the force they came offering services, our women today would not have the chances they're having today. There's no way a woman with 6 or 10 kids can finish school, go to the university, and then go into the working force. So it's a combination of factors. The education, the chance to regulate your own fertility have made a difference to the population, especially in women's issues.
Pro Familia started with family planning, but now offers a wide range of reproductive health services to women. Everyone pays something, however small, and income from profit-making activities like ultrasound scanning is used to subsidize frontline services for the very poor. In the past, church influence has discouraged the government from introducing its own family planning program or supporting Pro Familia, but today government cooperation and support is more forthcoming. Among the range of services available is female sterilization. This is increasingly popular among women who already have 3 or 4 children and feel that their family is complete. It involves a simple operation called tubal ligation. Between 30 and 50 sterilizations are carried out every day in this one clinic. And it's not just women who are participating. In 1994, Pro Familia opened Latin America's first clinic specifically for men, offering a comprehensive range of services, including vasectomy. In the first year, more than 5,000 vasectomies were carried out, with numbers increasing every month.
The way we see it here is organizing a set of services where women are the center of the services in the women's program, or men are the center of those services in the men's program. So everything that has to do with quality will rotate around the woman or the man, or the youth in the youth center.
That youth work is gaining in importance as the number of teenage pregnancies continues to rise. Every day, Pro Familia counselors visit schools or hold seminars in the clinic on subjects like AIDS and interpersonal relationships. It's exactly at this age, when a fair proportion are already becoming sexually active, that a proper understanding of their developing sexuality and of the need for responsible caring relationships is so vital, and of their rights as human beings.
By having the idea of human rights and reproductive rights, what we're really going forward is not only offering the chance to regulate one's own fertility, but also to empower women. We looked at the services in Pro Familia, and we found, when we talked to doctors and nurses, that the patients, when they came for family planning activities, were asking legal questions like, what can I do when my husband hits me? Or what can I do? My husband left and I don't have money for the kids. Or I was left without alimony. So we came up with the idea of bringing lawyers and doctors together. At the same time, the doctors, when they get a case of violence or a case of where lawyers need it, immediately they send the person here. So it's a good complement. Empowered women will be new energy, new ways in this world, and especially in the third world countries. These associations have two necessities and two goals and two musts. Offer the services, but also empower women. Get the women who come to our clinics to demand, to ask, to fight for their rights.
Away from the unique Pro Familia Legal Rights Center back in the barrio, the tide of unmet demand for reproductive health services continues unabated. An impromptu health education lesson is all part of the Pro Familia service. In a back room of the half-built breeze block house, a woman prepares herself to have an IUD, or intrauterine device, a popular form of contraception, inserted. But hand in hand with the provision of family planning services is a new emphasis on meeting women's health needs on a broad front and of empowering women, reflecting in a powerful and dynamic way the new direction embodied in the Cairo Plan of Action. The Cairo Conference in 1994 was a turning point in the population and development debate, a real victory for women, in which their needs were, at last, put center stage. As our stories from Egypt and Colombia have shown, enormous progress can be made with the kind of woman-centered approach outlined in the Cairo Plan of Action. So what is needed to put this vitally important plan into action?
Political will and political commitment on both sides. There is a need for political commitment for the North to really start doing something about lifestyles and the environmental degradation issue. There is a need for the South, for the North to help the South with development plans, programs which are truly addressing human resource needs by way of poverty reduction and poverty alleviation. If these two begin to show, I believe the rest will follow.
Women from the beginning of their existence in so many societies are just brainwashed into that role of the reproducer, of the bearers of children, as the way in which their status and their position in society and in the family is derived. And unless we can change those attitudes and those value systems, and the way to change that is to really empower women on their own for themselves as individuals in a society who should have the options and choices to exercise what they want to do with their lives, including reproduction, but also other options in life. And unless we can make that happen, no development program and certainly no family planning program will be successful.